Sm'algyax in Sm'algyax, I've said we're about to start. This has been a long time in the making. I took the Sm'algyax immersion course with Margaret in 2005. I became director here in 2007, and ever since I was able to call this building something to start to make it into something that was more about us as Tsimshians, I had in mind bringing Margaret here, and for next week bringing Velna here to teach our language, to teach Sm'algyax. Margaret has worked on Sm'algyax for over 40 years in partnership with fluent Sm'algyax speakers from many of our different communities in BC. She has taught in schools and community programs and developed a Sm'algyax teacher training program at the University of Northern British Columbia. Margaret continues to work on an incredibly rich resource which she'll be talking about today, the Sm'algyax Living Legacy Talking Dictionary.
Your language is beautiful. It has gorgeous patterns and a rich history, a literature. It's something that the world needs to know about, but most especially your community and the other Tsimshian communities need to know about. There are probably only a couple hundred speakers altogether now, and the average age is probably 75. But it is possible to revitalize the language, and I want to emphasize that at the beginning. There are a few cases of languages that were almost gone, that were disappearing, and that have turned that around. A linguist named Del Himes, who has worked with indigenous languages in North America for 40 years or 50 years, talked about what it takes to revitalize a language that's disappearing. And he said what you need to start with is you need good documentation. You need to have a dictionary. You need to know what the words of the language are, what things mean, and how you say them. You need to have a grammar, that is a description of how words fit together, because languages are much more than simple word lists, or else we'd all be speakers. The patterns that they're put together are complicated, and people need to learn those. So a grammar describes those. You need every sound to be represented clearly. So you want one symbol for each sound, and you want only one sound for each symbol. When I first started working with Sm'algyax, I lived in Ontario where I'd been teaching. And in the early 1990s, the province in BC established a new university called the University of Northern BC. And when they put their ads out, I thought, oh, they built me something, so I have to go. So I applied and went up to Northern BC as the first chair of First Nations Studies, and had the privilege of developing the program there. And we made I visited communities and consulted with elders and educators throughout Northern BC, and we made the program one in which language and culture had a prominent place, so that there are courses in the UNBC curriculum for most of the First Nations languages of Northern British Columbia. I don't think we have Tahltan, but we're working on it. But what I've mostly been focusing on for the last 10 years is working on the dictionary. This is the online talking dictionary. Have any of you used it? Some of you have used it, and I would encourage you to use it because you can see we have beautiful pictures. There's Cora splitting some bark, and there are sound files that go with it. There are lots of examples and sound files. We don't have examples and sound files for all the words yet, but working on it. He said I remember lots of stories. That's Doug Brown from Kitkatla. He has a particularly nice voice, a radio announcer voice that you can record lovely. Jesus is telling us an adao. I also included in this the previous dictionary. So this is the entry for adao from John Gunn's dictionary. He did a dictionary in 1978, and it's a great one because it includes information about which communities this form is attested from. You can also see related words. So here we've got adao is connected with melsk, so that's the entry for that. So you can move from one entry to another easily. You can see all the words that have similar meanings, that are connected to that same set of categories. This is Sm'algyax is to believe or a belief, and you can go from that to remember and all of the connected sorts of words. This shows people and helps people to start seeing the families of words, because there are whole sets of words that share parts. Sm'algyax, you can go, if I'm going to go to the B's, and I'm going to go to ba, which is just the root for one person to run. Look at all these words that are connected to it. There's aluba, to run fast, ba'an, to operate something, diba is to run with, galksaba is to run through, halimba is to get up out of bed, hatba is to run along, parallel to something. Means for several people to run. Wisanba means to run along the length, like a beam in a house, if you ran along the length of that. So there are lots, and these are all the words made on that one simple little root. This is the dictionary part of it, but this is where, remember I mentioned that there are texts? Well, the texts are created in the same program, and they actually, here's why, you all know that word. And you can see this connects right to the dictionary, so if I pick this one, then the word is linked to that in the dictionary. So if I go back to the dictionary and look for right? And then I go into the entry and I say I want to see how many possible examples. Find an example sentence of this. I don't have enough examples. So here's an example. Why Claraudi Hout. Now after she had said this, and then more and more and more and more ways that why is used. I don't have them all linked because it would get to be a very long dictionary indeed. But you could pick any of those. We now have 122 texts in the database that I've added to the database. And most of them have been completely analyzed like this so that you can figure out what the parts are. There are now over 6,000 words in the dictionary, about 6,500, and 122 texts, including text by Alfred Eaton from here, who came to Hartley Bay and made the recording there. He made several recordings. And also Violet Robinson made a series of recordings that are just priceless because she was a very talented storyteller. John Dunn's collected recordings that he made in Kitkatla in 1968 from Dorothy Brown and Kathleen Vickers are all in here and all analyzed. And these have all been checked with fluent speakers. I didn't just do the analysis myself. Anyway, so this is a matching game. You can do it with 3, 6, 9, or 12 pictures. Here we've got 12. So if we play the sound file here. So what's aus mean? Curly. Okay, so if I go here and pick that answer, it says yes, you're happy. You're happy. Okay, let's get one wrong. So if we go, I hit it twice, sorry.
That sounded better.
I remember my great-grandfather, or I don't remember my great-grandfather, Akandi. Yeah.
You're gonna make it wrong.
It's this one, but let's pretend it's this one. That gives you another chance. So you can go through this and it'll scramble them, and you pick the words you put in your practice file. I've got all words that have pictures and sound files.